Hey everyone, and welcome to my craft room. My name's Julianne Richards and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in southern Tasmania. I've got the house to myself today, which is something that doesn't happen very often, so I thought I'd take advantage of that time and actually pop on and make the tutorial videos for my March Friends Are Like Seashells class by mail. Hopefully that all looks fine. I'll just check my volume. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, I've got a new lapel cam, so a bit more of an expensive one this time, so hopefully it'll sort out any volume issues that I seem to be having when these convert to YouTube. Hopefully. I don't know what else to do if this doesn't work, but anyway, so who'd want to hear my voice anyway? You might just be better just to watch the vision. Anyway, I'm just only partially ready here. I should have been readier than I am. I'm just getting my inks and stuff ready. Anyway, I'm going to start this with make this one our card number 1 because to be honest, it's my favourite. So I'll show you how to pop this one together first. It's got several elements from the suite here. We actually stamp these images on the back, so we sort of make our own background there. It also uses the really beautiful embossing folder. So if you've bought the stamp set and the dies without the embossing folder, I really suggest that you get it. And you'll see in a later video how they work so beautifully together. I don't know if you can see that pattern there, but it just really does. It complements the stamps and the dies really nicely. And we'll see that in a little bit in this one, but mostly, as I say, in a later video. I'm also using the pearl embellishments. That's not from this collection. It's actually from the hydrangea collection, but I think the blue goes just beautifully with this card. In a later card, we will actually use the opal embellishments that do come with this suite. So anyway, we're cutting things around a little bit, but I'll show you how we go as we put it together. So this is what your kit will look like. There should be everything in there you need for 2 cards. I'm obviously just going to use everything for 1 today and pop it all together. So you've got a card base, which is our normal basic white thick card base, and again it's my normal size, 8 1/4 by 5 3/4 scored in the middle. I might get everything out first, and then we know what we're doing. You've got all your die cuts. You've got an embellished panel of Whisper White or basic white. You've got your pearls and a couple of die cuts as well, and this one here, which I will talk to in a moment. And the feature colour in this one really is the the Seaside Spray. Excuse my coughs. And you should also have a tiny thin little sentiment strip, and obviously your dimensionals as well. So I think that's all we need for 1 card. So let's have a little look. So as I say, a 1/4 inch thick sentiment strip. You might want to use a bigger piece and cut it down, but that's what I've given you for the set. You've got this here is, as I say, we're going to be cutting this around a little bit. This is actually part of the main die. If I can just bring it out and show you. This die is just so good. You can use it whole, you can cut it down. So as you can see here, I've just put it that way. I've just given you the reedy sort of weedy sort of part of that die there. So I've just cut it and got rid of all the bits around it, and that's in Sahara sand. Then we've got this smaller panel here of basic white, which has part of the embossing as well. So it's just the part that's got the reeds in it in the top left hand corner as well, right hand corner of the die as well. So as I say, you can use these parts or you can use them whole. You've also got some more Whisper White for stamping and fussy cutting, and this panel of Seaside Spray as well. So I'll put all the measurements in the instructions when you pop. You'll get them in the mail or via email once I've written them up. Okay, so let's start with this beautiful stamped background. So we're going to use just about every stamp there is in the set for this one. So I'll block them up. I probably should have blocked them up beforehand. Excuse me, I've got a slight cough. Hopefully I should have brought some water in for me. I'll grab some before I come back for the next video. So we're going to use that little shell there. We're going to use that little shell there. So I'm using all the ones that sort of look like the sort of the more natural, or more, what we call, not natural, more realistic look about them. There's some other ones there that are obviously meant, sort of like pencil drawing ones that are obviously meant to be coloured in, but for this particular background I'm using these ones that look more realistic. I do want this little reedy one as well, but I haven't got a block that's, oh, maybe that one. Oh, excuse me, I'll use that one. I haven't got a perfect block for that that's not being used. Okay, so we're just going to do normal sort of randomness, if you can call it that, straight onto your card base. So we've got our, I'm not sure nothing gets inky. So we've got our soft Seaside spray ink here, and we're going to just, I always start with the largest images and then you can infill with the smaller ones. So just popping that all the way around. I'm going to grab a, you can tell I'm not very organised today, can't you? I'm going to grab a foam mat and pop underneath. I just find that this photopolymer stamp better when you've got a bit of support under there, but you can see how you go. Silicone mat would do just as fine. Okay, so let's get stamping. So I'm going to stamp the whole card, although you'll only see the you'll only actually see the, it's a bit tricky doing it. I wonder if I open that up, it might be better. Oh no, I don't want to do that. Okay, you're only actually going to see the outside, but I'm going to stamp all around anyway. We're just going to start with this big one. You can go off the edge. It's often nice effect to go off the edge of these and rotate your stamp you know, between stamps, just to sort of, so it doesn't all look samey. I reckon that's probably enough of the big one. And now we'll bring in the next size down, which is a little sort of oyster shell, I suppose it would be, or scallop shell. And as I say, go off the edges. Just for that little bit of extra interest. Okay, so let's bring in the smaller one again. Make sure you're stamping on a surface that you don't mind getting a little bit inky, because you are going off the edges there. Okay. Okay, well, that one's a little bit close there, but that's okay, we're not going to see that. We might see the edges of it, but that would be it. Now, with all the gaps that we've got that you might like to fill in more, I'm going to use this little reed. And the reed is really good because it's really fine and really small, and you can bring it up into the spaces in between. And you don't even have to do all of it, you can just do, you know, the end of it or the part of it or the side of it, and it fits really, really well, as you can see. Okay, a bit too much of a gap there over this side, so I'm going to bring in part of our little shell, maybe the bottom end of it, just to fill that gap a little bit. Okay, so that's pretty good. We might just leave it at that. Don't want to overdo things. So that is basically our background there, and we might just leave that just to dry for a second. Not that it'll need it, but anyway, all good. So I mean, that is pretty enough to make a card from as a feature, I think. You know, maybe just a sentiment box or some ribbon or something on there, and I think that's just a lovely little card, but we're going to zhuzh it up a little bit. Okay, so we'll bring in the embossed panel and the panel of seaside spray that you've got, and we'll grab some glue. Hopefully the glue is got enough in it, and we'll just layer that up. Just like that, and you've got a good 1/4 of an inch or an 1/8 of an inch, a 1/4 of an inch smaller on this one. And so the orientation of this is important. You want those reeds and sort of seaweedy things to sort of be pointed towards the top. That's going to be your actual top of your card. So I might pop that aside as well. Okay, so we might do some stamping and some cutting out. This little panel here, as I said, is just part of the dies, and I have, I hope, already cut out that little image there for you. But I thought if you get the embossing panel yourself, you might like to see how I've done it. So basically I didn't bother embossing a whole sheet. I just cut down a smaller piece, big enough for the highlighted image that I actually wanted, and now I'm just going to cut it with scissors. I tried to combine the dies with these images, and I found that it's easier just to, because the shapes are just so lovely and smooth, it's just easier to grab the scissors and chop them down. So yeah, when it comes to stamping these next couple of images, you'll probably ask me why I'm not using the dies, and the answer being, I think it's easier just to fussy cut. You can use the dies if you want. I probably wouldn't pop this through once it had already been embossed, because obviously you put it through the die cutting machine with the embossing, you're going to lose a lot of your detail because it'll squash it out. But that there is basically, you can see how quick that was, that's basically what you should have in your set. So we're going to use that on our card as well. So what we need for the next part of this is the big seashell. So what I'd call the big realistic seashell, the one with the sort of the detail, and grab a block. So we're going to stamp this one in the same seaside spray that we've just used on the background. And hopefully, as you can see, the piece of paper, hopefully the paper I've given you is big enough at least to get 2 of this nice size one out. So we've got that one there. But I also want this little round, now I do know what it's called, a sea dollar. I think that's what I've seen them called. I don't actually know. I don't think they are common in Australian waters, but I have seen them called a sea dollar. And we want to grab, and I haven't got it out, that was a bit silly, we're going to grab my Sahara sand ink, which is just here. And we're going to just pop a C dollar as well, or stamp a C dollar. So we're going to fussy cut these, so as long as you can get a pair of scissors in between the two, you'll be right. Okay, so just grab the scissors, take off the glasses. Funny, as you get older, your glasses are less and less help. What I'm finding anyway. I've got my close-up glasses. But sometimes they're no good for this sort of thing either. So as I say, the images are just nice smooth curves. As I say, if you have the dies, pop them through that if you want to, but I found it just easier just to grab the scissors and cut them out, just in this case anyway. And you can make sure you have, if you're fussy cutting, you can leave as much white or cut close to the image. It just really depends on your own personal preference. In this case, I'm probably going a little bit closer than the dies would. And a good pair of scissors is always absolutely necessary for cutting paper and cardstock. And the paper snips from Stampin' Up! Probably, and I've done a lot of paper crafts before I joined, but the paper snips are the best. Sharp and light and responsive. It's a weird thing to call scissors, but yeah, some scissors have a mind of their own, and these behave themselves. There we go. Much easier than a circle, and that's exactly what this is. Here we go. So we've got our shell, and well, two shells, our sand dollar, and our little reeds there as well. So we might as well pop all this together. So we'll bring back our panel with our embossed pattern on it. I'm just going to lay them down here like this. So we've got our reeds in the background. Some weird stuff happening there. Hopefully that's just my die cut and not yours. So we'll pop the reeds down there, and we've got this slightly messy bit at the bottom. We're going to cover that with our other little components. Something like that. You see there? That's how it's going to look. We'll bring that all off and we'll glue where we want. Now it's going to go slightly over the edge, but that's not a problem. I think that actually is quite a bit nicer, that you have that sort of that layer effect where everything's a little bit around about, a little bit uneven. Okay, I'm going to bring in the big, oh no, yeah, I'm going to bring the big shell. Pop that just there. And then straight away, before it dries too much, I'm going to bring in the sand dollar and tuck it just in behind. Get that nice detail at the top. Just tuck that in just behind there like that. And then this little embossed shell, I'm actually going to pop him up on some dimensionals just to give that impression that he's in front of the other two elements. And he can just pop just in there like that. Okay, there we are. So this whole element as well, and I'm going to bring back in our card base that we stamped already. We're going to pop that just on top of there like that. As I say, you're not going to see those things in the middle, but that's all right. We can see the ones on the outside. I'm going to pop that up on dimensionals as well. There we are. And pop this onto our little card front here. So just as central as you can. You should have about half an inch all the way around. That's the way I have cut it, if I've cut it right. There we are. Okay, now my favourite pieces of this are these glorious little pearls. You may have noticed I've done quite a few videos with the hydrangea, and I think part of why I love the hydrangea so much is these wonderful little pearls. Actually, I'm going to go back a step and pop the sentiment on first, just so I know where to put my little pearls in the end. So I'm just going to grab a sentiment from the stamp set. So this one is wishing you all the very best. It's quite a flexible little spongy sentiment, so I'll just explain to you how I make sure these are straight, because you can sort of distort them a little bit putting them on the block. What I do is pop my block on my grid paper and then just lie, because they're see-through blocks, just lie the sentiment following a grid line, and you should be pretty straight. I'm just going to pop this in black ink, and I might actually experiment on my grid paper just to make sure that I've lined it up. Yep, that's pretty good. So you can use the little sentiment strip that I've given you, or as I say, you can cut your own if you find it a bit tricky to orient it on something quite so small, but it should fit pretty well. There you go. It's pretty close fit. And grab your scissors, if you can remember where you put them down. I have a nice, don't get me wrong, a nice craft table, but it's not huge. It's amazing where things can go missing. I'm going to trim that down to a pretty close to the ends and beginning of our lettering. Just trim it down and then glue just above here. So, and it's going to hang over the end a little bit, so you can probably pop a spare dimensional just on that very end there, just to support it. Oh, now I've got glue on my fingers. Bound to happen. Okay, so just above the reeds, where the reeds end, sounds like a movie, and onto there, and then onto there. Just firm that down, make sure it's straight-ish. There we are. So wishing you the very best. Now we can get to my favourite embellishments. So I'm just going to pop one down here, and one over here. And the third one, you can just put them wherever you happen to be happy with them. I'm no dictator as far as embellishments go. I'm still trying to work that out, what works for me as well. So probably wherever you want. Okay, so there is card number 1. We could pop a happy birthday or a little shell image or something inside. I'm not going to tell you how to decorate the inside of your card. Pop something onto the envelope as well, something to continue the theme. That would be awesome. Actually, no, that's, I haven't got an envelope here. I was going to sort of say, probably suggest on the back of the envelope where it folds over, you could keep that theme of the blue going and use those. That would be awesome. Okay, so there we are. There's both cards, the one my template and the one I've done today. You can see why they're my favourite, because I am anyone who knows me knows I am a blue girl. I love my blues and my greens, so that's really nice where I can use them in a proper context, in a seaside context. There you go. So that's card number 1. I hope you enjoyed that one. I hope it turns out well and you like it. I'm just going to tidy up a bit. do something about the light in this room. I've got the blind too closed. We'll do something about the light in this room. Grab a drink and I'll be back fairly shortly to do card number 2.